I'm just going to warn everybody that we are recording this meeting. So for those of you who don't want to appear within that recording, now would be the time that you'd turn your camera off. But we've got a few volunteers who aren't able to attend this meeting. And I suppose one of the benefits of having it online is that you can catch up with it on at a later date. So we'll be recording it and we'll be sharing it with the people who can't attend today. So just turn your camera off if you don't want to appear on that recording. So with no more ado, I will welcome everybody to the 2021 Dales Volunteer Autumn Meeting. My name's Sally. I'm Sally Robertshaw. I am the Volunteers Development Officer here at the park, and I've got my colleague Kim joining me here today. Give us a wave, Kim, if you can see her. Our volunteer admin officer, who I'm sure all of you know well by now anyway. I'd like to extend an especially warm welcome to people for whom this is their first autumn meeting. Just to give you a bit of context, every year we try and get together with our Dales volunteers once a year. Normally we have to find a site that's big enough for all of us. So for the last few years that's been in Grassington Town Hall, and we'll have a kind of morning's worth of talks, and some of the ranger-led teams use it as an opportunity to meet up and kind of have an end of season wrap-up meeting. But we also have some a large meeting for all of our volunteers, not just our ranger-led volunteers, so volunteers across all the roles in the park. And we'll have some talks. We'll normally have someone from our senior management team with us, and some staff and supervisors here from the volunteers, and normally have a good old natter, catch up with faces that we haven't seen from the year, have some food, and it's normally a lovely event. So not quite the same being online today, but it is absolutely better than nothing. And so I'm really grateful to see as many faces as I can today, and a really warm welcome to the meeting. We have recognised that probably everyone is really sick of online meetings by now, so it is a little bit shorter than the thing that we'd normally do face to face, but hopefully it's got some content that you'll be interested in. And I'm going to kick it off then with there's some standard things that we always do every year, and the first one of those is our long service awards, and these are normally presented by the chair of the authority face to face. For those again of you that are new, these are awards that we hand out for long service, and I really do mean long service. It's there isn't even an award till you volunteered with us for 10 whole years, so it really is an achievement to get one of these. And like I said, they're normally face to face, and there'll be something that you get that you can treasure, and we'll be getting those to the volunteers for whom it is their long service this year. But Kim will find a way to get them to you if she hasn't done already. So I'm going to share the screen now, because we're still going to hear from our chair. It's just virtually, but we do get the benefit of seeing him in a lovely landscape instead. So if you just bear with me, I will attempt to share my screen.
Morning, everybody. My name's Neil Heseltine. I'm a farmer and live at Malham, southern edge of the Yorkshire National Park, a place you'll probably all know well, and I'm also chair of the authority. Today we're up here on the junction of Bastiles Lane and the bridle way that goes over to Arncliffe Coat, and we're, as you can see behind me, we're sorting cattle out. We look like we're going to have a bit of a disaster by the fact that we've got a few in the neighbours' cattle next door. So anyway, what I really wanted to say to you today was a really massive thank you to all of you as volunteers for all the work that you do, not only with the authority and the help that you give the authority, but also the national park itself, this landscape, these rights of way that run all over the national park, and not just all the work that you do. It really is hugely appreciated. I'd like to say a particular thanks to those people who have been volunteering for such a long time. We've got Sylvia Turner and Liz Kirby who have celebrated 10 years of work with the authority. And I'd also like to say a massive thank you to Trevor Brooks and to Willie May for doing 20 years volunteering for the authority. All the work that you do is hugely appreciated, and I'd just like to say a massive thank you to you in celebrating those milestones today. So I hope the awards ceremony goes well. I'll go and get back to the work I'm doing up here, but have a good day. Hope it goes well, and thanks very much for your help. And if you ever want to get in touch with me, please do so in whatever form you would like to do so. But any help that we can give you, we're more than willing to help. So have a good day, and I hope it goes well. Bye-bye.
Okay, that was really nice. Last year when I asked Neil to do this, he said, do you want me to do it inside or outside? And he said he'd do it on top of the fell. And then this year we didn't even ask the question because it's so nice just to see him out and about in the landscape there. Kim and I had a little bit of think about the Long Service Awards, and we started to ask that the supervisors who work with the volunteers who are receiving them just provides a little bit of information about the volunteers as well, which Kim will be sharing in the newsletter. But as there's only 4 of them today, I thought I'd just read out the brief information that the supervisors provided about the 4 volunteers that we're talking about. Unfortunately, I don't have a photo for either Sylvia or Liz, but I, just to warn you, do have one for Trevor and for Willie. But if we start with Sylvia, this is what was provided to us from DCM. Sylvia is a member of the Research Room volunteer team at the Dales Countryside Museum. The research room is supervised 2 days a week by a volunteer team. As part of this dedicated team, Sylvia supports visitors and researchers wishing to access the McPhee and Calvert Trust archive collection held at the museum, carrying out family history research or studying the archive or objects in the DCM collection. In addition to helping researchers, Sylvia also organises a research room volunteer rota, which is no mean feat. We should perhaps also be thanking Sylvia's husband, John, also a Dales volunteer. It was through John that Sylvia joined the DCM team. We'd like to thank Sylvia for a huge contribution over the last 10 years, and we look forward to continuing to work with her. Moving on to Liz. Liz has been connected with the museum for many years, much longer than 10. So I think this might speak to our records, actually, Kim, and when we got Sylvia officially on our books, rather than actually how long she was actually with us. But still, we'll recognise the 10 years long service today. She was a huge support in establishing the research room in its current form. She has spent many days helping visitors in the research room and answering enquiries sent to the museum. Liz has carried out a huge amount of local history research and has generously shared her findings with visitors in the museum and when we've been working on projects and exhibitions. Liz also sits on the Friends of the Dales Countryside Museum Committee. This is a charitable trust which supports the museum by providing funding for our community projects, resources and the purchasing of new acquisitions for the museum. Liz is a great advocate for the museum and her support is invaluable. We would like to thank Liz for her contribution over the last 10 years and we look forward to continuing to work together. Just going to share my screen so that we can we get to the right one, find you a lovely picture of Trevor. Hopefully you can all see that now. I'd like to thank Nick Berry for providing this information about Trevor. So this is 20 years that Trevor has been volunteering with us. Nick says, in his 20 years of volunteering with YDMPA, Trevor has contributed to a wide range of activities to support the work of the authority. His volunteering activities have included access duties, practical tasks, designing and leading guided walks, parish pass surveys, wildlife projects, regular contributor to photographs and news items to volunteers' newsletters, and in the heady days of advertising volunteer vacancies in Yorkshire Post, Craven Herald, etc., he worked with staff and colleagues to design effective volunteer recruitment and appointment procedures. He has also been a mentor to new volunteers for many years and encouraged the development of a broad range of skills for volunteering in the Dales. As a Malhamdale resident, throughout his time, he has been an invaluable source of information, local information to volunteers at staff, not least because he spent a number of years as chair of the, I'm going to say this wrong, Scosthorpe Parish, apologies for pronunciation, their meeting, and saw the potential for partnership working to benefit the parish as well as the authority. Trevor's contribution has been significant, and on behalf of the authority, I thank him for his 20 years service as a volunteer. And last but not least, moving on to Willie. I've got contributions, really brief contributions from two people here. One is Roger Foreman, his supervisor, who tells me that Willie came to the National Park via the Ragged Robins group 20 years ago. He was also one of the core members of the original team, together with John Smith and Frank Broughton, who also are still members of the Ragged Robins Dales volunteering. He has worked under past Swaledale Rangers, Tommy Hindle, Ian Broadwith, and now with myself. No doubt will still be around when I've retired. As a retired firefighter, he has brought his rope skills to the group and use of levers to extract stubborn posts, and has, as a self-styled shop steward of the volunteer group, has always voiced his views and thoughts. With his 20 years of experience as a volunteer, I have depended on his skills to ensure the job has been carried out well, and also taken his advice regarding jobs at hand. Anyone who has worked with him will know about his banter, steady, cheeky smile, and generally a good bloke to work with. Even when wet and cold, he will warm the team with his laid-back attitude. When he's unable to attend on a Thursday, it is usually grandad duties. And finally, we hear from Brian Rawlins, who is the leader of the Ragged Robin team, with some further thoughts on Willie. Brian starts by talking about how he joined the group at the end of 2000, and he's worked with the Rangers that Roger also mentioned. He talks about how Willie has continued with practical tasks and with what became known as the Ragged Robins team. And he was one of the most regular attenders of the Thursday work parties, interrupted only by grandparent duties as the need arose, and would willingly turn his hands to any task on offer. He inevitably reported for duty with a cup of Costa in his car to start the day off well. He was a self-appointed union rep and a shop steward for the work party, and claimed to be diligently responsible for perusing pay awards for the Dale volunteers. The rest of the team weren't absolutely sure which union they were supposed to be members of, as despite Willie's efforts, everybody else withheld their subs until some results were announced, and they're still waiting. Willie has provided his worth to the team by perfecting the art of making comfortable seat from a wheelbarrow, tilted with its handles on the ground and the wheel up in the air, which I think we need to see a photo of for sure. As an example of his dedication to the work parties some years ago, he needed to have operations on both knees, which he chose to have carried out at the same time. After only 6 weeks on sick leave, he returned to the work party and spent the whole day shoveling materials into the cement mixer when we were rebuilding the revetments on the footbridge at the bottom of Swinnergill. So thank you everybody for those contributions, and thank you very much to the 4 recipients of the Long Service Awards. I should just finish by saying there's absolutely no expectation or requirements that anybody would be returning to volunteering after only 6 weeks off after having 2 knee replacements. That's quite a mean feat. Okay, so moving on in the agenda now, I'm going to be introducing Catherine Beardmore. She's the head of the Park Services, and she's going to be giving a talk today on the highs and lows of 2021. So I will now hand over to you, Catherine.
Thanks, Sally. Okay, so hopefully sharing my screen's going to work. So here goes. Okay, so Sally's nodding, so I'm assuming people can see that. Which is always the worry, isn't it, getting it the first time? Yeah, Sally says, I'm going to talk about 2021. Everybody's been saying we've been living through unprecedented times, and there's definitely no doubt about that. And if you just look at the number of car park ticket sales, which shows on this graph here, you can see roughly the sort of visitor numbers we've been having. I thought it just helpful to start with this slide, because obviously we're here to talk about the national park and what's been happening. And if you look at this graph, so the red graph here, a red line here is 2020. So if you can see here, obviously went into lockdown, not many car park tickets were sold. Then we started to see day visits back into the park, June, July, and then by August we're as high as we've ever been, basically. And then obviously continued in September, October last year, and then went back down December. And if we look at this year, so this year is the green line. Obviously we started off in limited travel. So those of us who are lucky enough to live in or very near a national park could actually come into the park for exercise and recreation. And it wasn't really until the end of March that travel was increased so people could come out on day visits, and by April and May we had accommodation back open. So at this point we're looking pretty normal. And then if you look here, you can see that June, July, August, September, and then October's around here somewhere. You can see you've had what's really been the equivalent of 4 Augusts in 1 year, because this year really has been the year of the staycation. So in terms of impact that's had, obviously it's had a big impact on the park, and this is just the queue for Malham toilets. And I know if any rangers are on this call, they'll tell you about the blockages that results in as well. But it just shows that the impact on the park in terms of our services and what's been happening out there. We all know about litter in terms of the fact that we've had a lot of it. And you'll also know that barbecues have been an issue. So on the right, you can see a picture here of barbecues and the damage that they can cause. And obviously, if this is on tinder dry grass, it's not difficult to see how that can start fires. Similarly, litter bins, as much as people do provide, and this is one provided by Craven District Council in Malham, we know that litter bins do attract litter, and this is a really good example of that. People can never keep up with actually clearing litter bins. And in 1990, we actually took out our litter bins for that reason. And I know there's always a bit of consternation about that, the fact that we don't have litter bins in the park, but I think this is a good illustration. So in terms of people coming to the park, it's been quite interesting. We've done visitor surveys both in 2020 and 2021, because it became clear that we were getting a different demographic to, if you like, our more traditional visitors. And because we've done visitor surveys every 5 years, we could actually compare the results of 2020 and 2021 with the last survey done in 2017. And it was really clear that we're getting a younger demographic and also more diverse demographic, which is really fantastic. But we also found out that places like Aysgarth and Malham, most of the visitors were first-time visitors. They'd never been to the park before. In Aysgarth, it was as many as 50% had never been to the national park before. So in terms of what to expect, it soon became clear that we needed people out on site to actually talk to people when they arrived. Because the other thing we discovered was that most people didn't actually plan their visit. They just did a quick Google search, where should we go today? Yorkshire Dales, Aysgarth and Malham come up as the top hits, and that's where people then turned up. So it's been really great that we've had volunteers out meeting people and actually helping them get the most out of their visit and explaining what to expect. Because obviously we were trying to fill a rota, and I know that that's quite difficult. It's quite a time commitment, and it's been great that we've had some stalwarts out there that have been volunteering for us regularly on the meet and greet duties. We also decided that we needed to have employed staff over the summer period. And this is Andy, who's our seasonal ranger, along with Rachel, who helped out and about at hotspots, places like Burnsall and other places, just to help really get our messages out. As you can see here, this one very clearly says, take your rubbish home and help keep us safe in terms of the wildlife. So that's actually gone as well as we could hope in terms of people actually being out there on site to greet people when they visit the national park. One of the things we've been wanting to do for many years was look at easy walks from our national park centres. And as I say, it became clear that with people just turning up, not planning their visits, one of their first questions was to ask what could they do. And we actually published various A4 leaflets with walks from each of our national park centres. And you'll see here at the side here, there's a dispenser where people can help themselves to the leaflets. And then what we've now done is put that onto a map board at each of the centres. So if people aren't on site, people have got something to look at and find out where they can go for a walk. It's been really interesting this, because in Malham, we've actually put colour-coded waymarks along the walk so people can find their way. You can see here, you've got the purple route across the top of Malham Cove, you've got the blue route up to Janet's Foss, and the red route up to Gordale Scar. And that seems to work really well, because one of the main questions people ask going into National Park Centre at Malham is how to get to the cove. And obviously if the centre's not open, as it wouldn't be this time of year during the week, then people can find that information quite easily. The other thing that's been interesting, when we first started the leaflets, I thought, golly, that could end up as litter and could cause us a problem. But it's been really great to see that the leaflets haven't ended up as litter. And also those who know Malham well will know that we sell a leaflet called the Malham Landscape Trail leaflet. And interestingly, giving people the walk as a freebie has an impact on the sales of the Malham Landscape Trail either. So from our point of view, this has been a success on every level. One thing we have tried to do, and this is where I think it's a, you know, an interesting philosophical discussion about whether we should have been trying to spread the load more. People often say about, you know, we should deflect people away from places like Malham, but fundamentally people have chosen to go to Malham because it is Malham. And actually, you know, they're quite happy when they get there. The satisfaction levels from our surveys are really high. So in terms of their visit, the fact that it might be busy, you know, they're okay with that. But what we have done is on our website, we've put a whole series of walks so that if people like somewhere and they think they might want to come back again, they look on our website, they can actually find alternative walks and alternative places to explore. And this year we've just actually launched an app with those walks on it that can be downloaded. It works off your phone, so if people can't read a map, they can see where they are, as you can see here very clearly with an arrow. This is the thing I've always found difficult using my phone to navigate, is which way I've got my phone when I start walking. So it shows you which way you're pointing in and which way you're going. And hopefully this will be really helpful in those people that have been to Malham and Aysgarth actually thinking, where else can I go? And downloading this app, which is free. And I encourage you all to do this as well. It's on the App Store for Google and iPhone, Android and iPhone. And hopefully it'll be interesting to see how that encourages people to explore other parts of the park. Because again, one thing we have found from our surveys, people might have been on their first visit in 2020 or 21, but they keep coming back as well. So at any point in time, 5% of the people that we were interviewing had been on their first visit in 2020 or 2021 and were then on their second visit. So it's really great that they've discovered the park and they've discovered the benefits that it brings for them. The next thing I was going to move on to was the coast to coast. Obviously, those of you that are keen walkers will know probably the coast to coast and the fact that it's a really great way of exploring 3 national parks with the Dales in the middle. Some of you will also know that Rishi Sunak is actually the MP for Richmond, so he's our local MP. And when he first became an MP, he was really keen that the coast to coast actually get recognised as a national trail. So this year, the government announced that the coast to coast would become a national trail. Obviously, it already exists on the ground, so it's not like when we put in the Pennine Bridleway, having to actually create the route. The route already exists. It's now about making the route the best it can be. And we're actually working with Natural England, looking at how we can make it, you know, really great route. And also looking at things like whether parts of it can be accessible for all, accessible for some, or accessible for many. So for me, the fact that the coast to coast hopefully will become a national trail while I'm working for the National Park Authority, I think will be absolutely fantastic, because most people think it's a national trail anyway. And if you've walked part of it, you'll see that it would benefit from the extra funding that national trail status brings. Anyway, this picture was taken in September when, say, the government announced the fact that it would become a national trail. And now it's the hard work of actually seeing what that looks like on the ground. Okay, so thinking about tourism and what's happening this year, the one thing I did want to explain was people think that we promote the national park in terms of encourage people to visit. I think it's just really helpful to remind us that, you know, our purpose is to promote opportunities for the understanding and enjoyment of the national park. So we don't actually promote the national park in the sense of tourism, and that tourism actually is vested with the economic regeneration function of the district councils, and also people like Welcome to Yorkshire and Cumbria Tourism as a destination management organisation. We also don't need to promote the national park because, as we know, you know, the media do a great job for us. Some of you will have been watching All Creatures Great and Small, and this is showing how Grassington was transformed, you know, for the 2 series that have been on telly recently. And then you've got things like the Our Yorkshire Farm and other Yorkshire Vets and other TV programmes. So So Yorkshire Dales is very much, I think, in the limelight at the moment. So in terms of people coming this year, we've seen that with the staycation, that most of the people who hadn't been before are actually from the southeast, and obviously coming here on holiday, thinking, where shall we go? They'll have seen stuff on telly about the Yorkshire Dales, and obviously we've had a lot of visitors from outside the area, which is really great, because in terms of our tourism businesses, you know, that we want them to survive. They're a really important part of our local economy. And what we found from 2020 was our STEAM data shows that the number of visitors, because obviously shops were shut, hospitality in particular was shut during 2020, that a lot of businesses actually took a hit of 50% reduction in their income in real terms last year. And what we don't know yet is the number of visitors we've seen this year, whether that translates into obviously financial and economic benefit for the businesses this year. And I really hope it has, because, you know, they could really do with it. If I just take our own national park centres, for example, our number of visitors are well down. They're down by a third. People aren't going into shops. But what it is showing is that when they do go in, they buy. So as much as our visitor numbers actually within the building are down, the visitor spend is up. So I hopefully that's the same across other places within the national park. Okay. So obviously, while we've had all these number of visitors, and obviously they've had an impact on the park, we also know that, you know, it's been business as usual in terms of looking after the park. And this is a slide of some of the work that's been going on this year. This is the Ingleborough Access Project, and this is Sulbanick, and you can see here, you know, the erosion and damage and how it ends up being spread, and how, you know, a new footpath service has been laid. We managed to do this with money from Natural England. They gave us 180,000 towards work around the Ingleborough estate. The other business as usual has been repairing some of the flood damage that was been done a few years back, and this is Starbottom Bridge, and you can see here you know, the damage that could be caused if that hadn't been repaired, how quickly we could lose that bridge. And we've lost quite a few bridges, as you'll know, because of flood damage. Some of you will know Kirby Lonsdale and the Riverbank path. The national park boundary actually runs along this path here. So we managed to get money from Cumbria County Council and others to repair this bank and hopefully shore up the path that goes along this edge here. This work was only completed, I think it was the end of August, beginning of September, and it's been really great. The mild weather we've been having, seen the grass is growing, which is always a worry when you do these sort of repairs, whether there's going to be flooding that's going to rip it apart before it has a chance to get established. And we've already had one flood event, and this has managed to hold, which is really great. Similarly, you know, Willow Spiling is one of the mainstays in the north of the park in terms of actually helping to protect the River Urine. This is Paul Sheehan out with some volunteers doing some Willow Spiling work that looks really good. It's been really great to see that we have been able to get volunteers out this year doing work around the park. I know it hasn't been business as usual for volunteers, but it's been just really great that people have been able to get out. I mean, obviously social distancing is always important, so but fundamentally it's just really great to see people back out enjoying their work and helping us look after the park. We certainly couldn't do what we do without you, and the skills that you bring, I say, is very much appreciated. One of the other new things this year is education has been re-established within the National Park Authority as a programme. Some of you will know that during austerity, the National Park Authority's budget was cut by 40% in real terms. And that meant we had to make some difficult decisions about what we were going to do. And unfortunately, one of the programmes that was cut at that time was education. And because of the boundary extension in 2016, our grant got increased a bit, and also the importance of education in terms of young people actually understanding what the national park has to offer. This is now what we would deem an adequate programme, in that we've reinstated the staffing involved in actually delivering education activities to young people in the catchment area of the national park. And Rebecca, who's sort of Swift, who started with us this year, amazingly has managed to already engage with 1,500 school children in the park. And of those, 38% of the primary schools within the park. So that's really great to see. And she's now obviously doing further work, working with schools on the edge of the park. It's really important for me that children do have the opportunity to visit the national park and understand obviously things like the Countryside Code, the impact of things like climate change, but also just have an appreciation for the environment around them. And you can see the smiling faces, how much everybody's enjoying it, and the feedback's been really great. Another project that started this year, but this is with external funding, is Generation Green. And I won't say a lot about that because I know you're going to have a presentation after me. And what I would say for us, this has been really, really helpful in helping us understand how to help young people get the most out of the skills that they learned through volunteering, and how that can help them move on then to get a job in the environmental sector. And yeah, no, that's a really great project that we're doing with the Youth Hostel Association, Scouts, and other national parks across England. Unfortunately, at the moment, it's a one-year funded project because it's been funded through DEFRA and their Community Renewal Fund, but we're trying really hard to try and find funding to continue that project. The government have actually been making a lot of money available for national parks, as you might be aware, in lots of different ways. And one of the ones you might have heard about is the Farming in Protected Landscapes, 1.2 million for 3 years to actually help farmers diversify with one-off projects. And at the start, nobody knew how much take-up there would be, but you can see here there's been 178 inquiries already, and it was only launched in June, and 10 applications have already been approved. And these applications, you know, are really diverse, from everything from helping people set up classrooms for school visits, through to rights of way, to helping conserve lime kilns. But that's a really exciting initiative, and to say we've got 3 years of that scheme, and it's really great that farmers can really see the potential. The other area that we've had additional government funding for is woodland and tree planting. We all know the benefits of tree planting. You might not know that the Dales only has 4% tree cover compared to the national average of 9%. And we've set ourselves a target of increasing that to 7%, basically, because woodlands have lots of benefits, as well as helping slow the flow of water. And some of you will know that a lot of the major rivers in the north of England that cause flooding all start in the Dales, whether it be the Eden, the Lune, the Ure, the Swale, the Wharfe. But also obviously the benefits in terms of climate change, and also just diversifying the landscape, the biodiversity benefits as well. So say the government's given us £800,000 towards tree planting. So there's a lot going on, and it's actually, obviously, it's all very well having the money, but getting it spent wisely is quite important. And this is where a piece of work's been done, looking at the opportunities for tree planting across the national park. And you know, if you go onto our website, you'll be able to see more of that if you're interested. Okay, as I say, it's also been business as usual in that we're still carrying out our planning function despite COVID and everything else that's been going on. And you'll know from the press about how much there's been a boom in the housing market, and obviously in terms of building. And that's really reflected in the number of planning applications our planning team have been receiving. If you look at this graph, it's actually showing each month, basically January through to October, compared to the previous 3 years. And you'll see here, the amber is this year, how the number of planning applications is generally exceeding in any previous months. So obviously that in turn puts pressure in terms of our staff team dealing with those planning applications, but also other staff, you know, the ecologists, the archaeologists and woodland team and rangers obviously all comment on planning applications as well. So it just adds to the workload that people have at the moment. That being said, I think it's really just real testament to the hard working of the staff that this year we were due for renewal of the Customer Service Excellence Award. This gets renewed every 3 years. and we've retained the award for the 12th successive year. And we've actually achieved higher feedback than we've had in previous years, despite everything that's going on, despite the money and the new initiatives, and despite the fact that we've had lots of visitors. So for me, this is really great recognition of the hard work that the staff are doing in terms of just providing good customer care out there to the people coming to the park, whether it be a visitor or whether it be a resident dealing with a planning application, or farmers looking at getting a grant or getting support. So for me, I think this is a real testament, to say, to the hard work that everybody's been doing behind the scenes. As an organisation, we like to have external verification and feedback on what we're doing, just to make sure that we can carry on improving and being the best organisation we can. And on that point, some of you will know that we're Investors in People organisation, and when the Investors in People Award got revamped about 5 years ago, we decided that we would continue with the award, and unlike some organisations, even though it was a higher award to achieve. And it's been really great as well that this year we're also due for renewal of our Investors in People Award, and this year we've achieved a higher standard than we had previously on this as well. I have to say, I was a little bit nervous about this one, because as much as I think, you know, we're a great organisation, and, you know, we really do care about our staff and our volunteers and want to be the best we can be in terms of looking after people, it's been a really tough year. You just got to talk to the staff themselves. I mean, I think it's been tough for anybody, you know, whatever they've been doing. But when, you know, you've got all the pressures of extra people in the park, you've got pressures in terms of trying to spend money, you've got pressures in terms of delivering the service, then at times, you know, people have felt frazzled, understandably so. And on top of that, you know, people have been trying to do homeschooling and look after everybody and within their families, and obviously the worry for some people about partners, jobs and things like that. So for me, the fact that we have achieved this award into a higher standard than previously is just really fabulous. If I just explain the graph to you, because it might not be quite clear. The grey here is, oh sorry, just move back, gone too far. The grey here is the actual standard for our industry, which is public administration and defence. The blue is the standard for IIP as a whole. That's across all industries, so things like the private sector as well as public sector. And then the outer ring is our actual level, and you can see here it's between the two. When we first did this new higher level award, we actually came out the same as our industry standard, and you can see here that we've just edged forward, which is, you know, I say really great and a really great achievement. It's done through a anonymous survey and the assessor talking to staff. So from the point of view of that result, you know, say that's just really good to see. So in terms of the organisation as a whole, you might wonder what that means in terms of finances and what's happening. And I've talked about lots of different initiatives and external funding. Well, in terms of our DEFRA grant, we've continued to have a flat settlement since 2020, which is 5.2 million. And we expect that for the next 3 years. So basically we'll have had a flat settlement for 5 years. So no allowance for inflation, pay awards or anything like that. And some time ago, in the middle of austerity, we recognised that we had to increase the amount of external income we brought to the organisation to actually achieve what we want to do out there in the national park. And when we're looking at our finances, we assumed that basically, if you think here, this is our DEFRA grant is basically along this line, and we've projected that our income from other external sources would perhaps be another 3 million on top. But actually, looking at where things are at now with things like FIPL and other things that are happening, you know, this is this year, so we're well above our target. And then in the next 2 years, we expect to exceed 10 million. So that basically means that 5 million of our income is actually coming from external sources. That presents its own challenges. A lot of these things, using the example of green generation, are time limited. And also in terms of an organisation, it means we're actually quite fluid in terms of looking at you know, our money and how much money we actually have for things. But fundamentally, I think that's a really good news story. You know, this is all about doing things out there in the national park and making a difference. And you can see there the fact that we actually have money to do that. Okay, so just basically to sort of summarize what I've said here, obviously COVID hasn't disappeared. You know, we're doing this on Zoom because obviously the number of cases are really high and nobody really knows what the winter's going to bring. Hopefully next year will be a more normal year. I certainly think from a car parking visitor numbers point of view, I think a lot of people are itching to go abroad, and we'll see a more normal return to how things have been the previous 5 years. Hopefully we'll keep some of the younger people visiting, and hopefully they'll recognise that the National Park is there for them and will come back. But in terms of visitor numbers, I'm not expecting them to be the same next year. As I say, you know, it's been unprecedented, the amount of visitors we've had this year. We've also had, obviously this year, a lot of big new initiatives, and it's had an impact on our income, which has been very positive. But at the same time, you know, our core work has increased, whether it be rights of way maintenance or just looking at planning applications or other things. So, you know, staff are actually under a lot of pressure in terms of delivery and making sure that the wheels on the bus keep moving around, and we're out there in the park doing stuff and making a big difference and keeping up, you know, our customer services, and say whether it be to residents or visitors. But fundamentally, what I wanted to say was, you know, what we do, and as Neil said, we couldn't do without you. This year, I think we've had 2,000 volunteer days so far, and our target's 7,000 a year. And that's really important to me, the fact that you're actually doing so much for us and making a big difference in so many areas of the park. And, you know, we really couldn't achieve what we're doing without your help and support. So I just really want to say personally, you know, thanks very much for everything you're doing. And it is really very much appreciated. Thank you. I'm conscious there's been a few things in the chat. I'm just checking time. I think I'm not sure whether we've got a lot of time to ask questions or whether people want to put stuff in the chat, and I can always come back to them later. I'm not one of these people that can multitask and do chat and share screen at the same time, but I'll certainly look at the chat and respond. I'll hand over to Sally.
Thanks, Catherine. Yes, so I'll keep an eye on the chat, and if there are things, we'll send them to you, or perhaps you can have a look now. But yeah, feel free to ask or follow up on anything that that Catherine said. That's not a problem. Okay, moving on to the next stage of the agenda. I'm going to play a video now from Caroline, who's our youth volunteering officer. So again, bear with me, I'm going to share the screen, and she's going to explain the a bit more about Generation Green, which Catherine mentioned, but also a bit about a specific programme within there, which is the Upskill Down Dale.
Hi everyone, my name's Caroline and I'm the Youth Volunteer Officer at the Yorkshire Dales National Park. I started back in April and I can't come to the meeting on Sunday, which you're all at now, so I thought I'd give a little presentation and tell you a little bit more about the youth volunteering that's come about as part of Generation Green in the Yorkshire Dales National Park since April. So Generation Green is a one-year funded project, and the purpose of the project is to provide educational sessions and volunteering sessions with groups of young people who wouldn't usually get the opportunity to come to the parks and who are currently underserved. So they, for a number of different reasons, there are like barriers to them accessing the park, so that could be cultural or social, economic reasons. And so Generation Green aims to try and overcome some of those barriers to provide opportunity. So we, our education and learning are delivering a lot of those educational sessions as part of Generation Green, and then myself and the volunteering team are delivering the volunteering sessions. So you might have seen on Better Impact already that there are something called Dales Action Days, and those are the volunteering sessions for groups of young people. And these are a programme of volunteering sessions that allow for groups to come for a longer period of time. They have repeat sessions, they learn a variety of different skills, and they work with a variety of different members of the community, people who work in the community, businesses in the community, and also partner organisations that are working already in the Dales, such as the Yorkshire Dales Rivers Trust, or Yorkshire Water, or National Trust. So we've done a big range of tasks and have sort of worked with 5 or 6 different groups so far, and we've done things like repathing, paving the path on the way to Goredale Scar, cutting back cherry laurel and Redmire Woods with the National Trust, knocking back tree cages when the trees have got too big up at Empsey Reservoir. Yeah, we've done a real range of different tasks, and for me, it's like I really enjoy working with groups long term, and to see them develop their skills and to see them build a relationship up, build a relationship with different people, and to see their confidence in the Yorkshire Dales and their feeling of being welcomed and included in that space. That feels really important. So, and the sessions are always sort of guaranteed to be wet and muddy, physically quite challenging, but always fun. And one of the most important things is to kind of like listen to the needs of the group, whether they need something really physical because they're developing their skills for kind of adulthood, or whether they want something a bit more academic because they're kind of a sixth form biology class. Like listening to the needs of the group, looking at where they're coming from and planning locations, and then trying to make things work from there. So I've got a little slideshow of some pictures, so I'll show you some of those, and you can see. So this is a session that myself and Rhiannon led with Dixon Sixth Form Academy in Bradford. They were a group of young people who came out and learned about bees, different types of bees, did some bee surveys, and learned about flower anatomy. Here are a group of young women from the school who are seeping in all the information you possibly muster about bees. Here's a photo of a young woman called Zainab and Rhiannon, who works in parks, and they are having the time of their lives. Here's Sally looking at some bees with a group of young men. And here is Roger, who proclaimed every day is a school day on this session. And this is just a photo at the end of a session with a group called Good Deeds, who are from Leeds. And Mahbub, their leader, has been kind of accessing the park and coming out to the park for many years. And he's now bringing his group of young people into the park to do some volunteering as well. And if you look closely, you can spot Val and Rebecca nestled in there too. The second part of youth volunteering that we're doing at the Yorkshire Dales National Park is to set up a youth volunteering group for older young people, so adults, so young people aged 18 to 29. This is kind of a route into volunteering that comes from maybe the Young Rangers. So young people might be volunteering with Young Rangers, and then once they turn 18, they can then come into the upskill Downdale group, youth volunteering group, or they might join a Dales Action Day with their school or college, and then recognise that they want to do some more long-term volunteering, so they then join Upskill Downdale. So you might have met some of our Upskill Downdale volunteers at the National Park Awareness course, or at some outdoor first aid, and you'll notice them because I think they're new to the parks and they're quite young, and so keep your eye out for them, please. Yeah, please say hello. And yeah, I'd like to tell you a little bit more about what we've been doing. So we meet once a month on a Saturday, and we do a range of different things across the park. So sometimes it's doing a physical task, but quite often it's learning about a different project that's happening in the park that might be having a positive environmental impact. that might be have some conservational values. So we've done a lot of like learning about peat bogs or about conservation farming. We're working with Yorkshire Dales Rivers Trust to do some invertebrate surveys and some collecting some eDNA. So we do quite a variety of different tasks, and hopefully really skill these young people up so that they come away with some really good opportunities and examples for their CV, and hopefully some great experience if they want to work in the green economy. So yeah, they're a very passionate bunch. They're a really quite a diverse bunch of young people. They've all got very different backgrounds, and it's like, for me, I feel very lucky to work with them, and I love when they all come together and they're a little community. So I'll show you some photos of those guys. You might recognise them. So you can see here, there is Charlotte and Freya, and we went out into Cleetop Woods, and it was a learning and engagement training day. So we did some tree identifications and navigation, and had some fire pit lunch. And I'll just move that out of the way. Here you can see we went up to a farm called Kexworth Farm in Swaledale, and there were some great guys who taught us how to do some walling. They are there every Saturday without fail throughout the year, and they were so welcoming to the upskill Downdalers, and so good at teaching. It was great. Here is Lydia bashing some bracken back. This is kind of, we're doing this, this has been done over a couple of years, and then there's the hope of being able to plant trees. And the volunteers went to Hilltop Farm, so they went and met Neil Heseltine in Malham, and they did a bit of filming for a geography curriculum video about climate change, and they learned quite a lot about farming, about sort of conservation grazing, and what Neil was doing to kind of think about the environment. And here are some of them. From the left, it's Leah, then Laura, then Lulu, all the L's, and then Freya on the left, Charlotte, and Aaron. So just to finish up, thanks very much to everyone who's volunteered days so far. If you'd like to get involved, you can find the Dales Action Days on Better Impact, or look out for my name as well. And it's been great to meet so many Dales volunteers so far since I've been here in April. So I hope to meet more of you over winter. I hope the rest of the meeting goes well. Thanks.
Oh, thanks, Caroline. As Caroline says, if you want any more information about that particular project or how to get involved, just either track down Caroline or come via Kim or myself, because volunteer support is crucial to making that project work. Okay, we are going to have a little break in a moment or two, but before we do, there's an item on the agenda that's, well, there isn't, it's not listed, but there is an act on the agenda which I'm going to hand over to my colleague Kim to talk a bit more about. Thanks, Kim.
Well, I just want to really state quickly, you should have received a parcel, a little envelope from us. So now's a good time to, let's take a break if it's okay with everybody, and go and get your parcel and open it up and get a cup of tea, and then shall we meet back in about 10 minutes, if that's okay with everybody?
Thanks, Kim. Okay, so it's 11:56, so about 12:05 we'll start to see people again, if that's all right.
Great.
Okay, I think we're looking like we might start to have most people back in front of a screen now. I think if everyone starts to get ready, I'll let Kim reconvene whenever she's ready.
So hopefully everybody's received a little envelope from us and has now had the opportunity to open this. So at the meeting, we just really like to introduce our new badges, as you can see, and I'm just going to share my screen just to do a tiny presentation, because you might be sick of more presentations, but hopefully this is very small. I'm just going to share my screen with you. Okay. So hopefully everybody can see that now. To introduce our new Dales. The idea really from the badges is to have recognise all the hard work our volunteers do in, day out. We hope you wear your badge with pride. The idea is to show really just a tiny gift to say how much valued member of the team you are and how much we appreciate the contribution that you made. From this, it also allows you to see who is new and who established volunteers as well. So you can easily recognise rather than having that conversation with somebody. So everybody will receive or should have received a green DV badge, and everybody will get this when they start their training and do the appropriate hours. You will then receive a number of badges based on the number of year service. So as you can see, you'll have year 1, 2, 5, 10, and so on. 25 silver, and then going on to 50-year gold. And as you can see the full range here with the gold and the silver clearly. We've tried to keep in the authority Pantone colours as well. So you will receive them in the post, so you should have received the appropriate numbers in the post, but when your next one is due, we'll automatically pop that in the post for you, so you don't have to request it, we'll just automatically send that. So you can wear them all or you can wear one. It's how you like to wear them is entirely up to you. You'll also might be seeing the Newsdale's volunteer logo, which will start being rolled out onto appropriate paperwork, BI and emails, so look out for this as well. This is our new Dales logo, which is still the authority, but it's just for the volunteers. And lastly, I would like to just say a massive thank you for the amazing job that you do. The authority really does appreciate everything you do as volunteers. But personally, I'd like to thank you all for making my job so pleasurable, answering all my emails, helping out with emails, submitting articles for my newsletter and helping me out with any request really quickly. So I just really appreciate it, that everything that you do for us. So that, I did say it was a very short presentation, but I really hope you do enjoy the badges. If you could just hold them up to the screen, that would be great. So Sally can take a little screenshot for you, which would be great.
I might have, there's so many of you in this meeting, I'm going to have to go between the screens, so if you can just bear with me, but I'll wait till I can see a few people on this screen holding it up. And then I'll move. Oh, very good. Oh, that's a very nice close one. Okay, let me take some screenshots. Might not work, but thanks everyone. Right, moving on to the next screen so your arms don't start to ache. Ah, yes, and those of you who've got more than one, that might be quite hard to hold them all up. And some cards, thank you. And then let me go to screen 4. Fabulous, thanks everybody.
And just lastly, just to say, please keep submitting all the articles, keep taking photographs for me. love to hear them, and I know that a lot of our volunteers love to hear other experiences from volunteers throughout the park. So please continue to sending them over. Love reading them and seeing them. So that's it from me.
Thanks, Kim. Okay, next on the agenda, I am sorry, it is death by presentation, but again, it's only a few slides. I will keep this under 5 minutes, but I'd like to just talk to everybody a little bit about our Look Wild project. It's something that we did a soft launch for a few months back now, actually. Yeah, probably a good 6 months ago, and that was before the project was sort of officially launched. So some of you will have come to that meeting, but now it's fully live. So we'd like to just tell you a little bit more about it and to see if you can help us with some data gathering when you're out and about. So I'll just share my screen. Hopefully, I just need to move you guys out of my way. Okay. So this is a project that is being run by all 15 national parks in the UK. It was something that during the pandemic, the Exmoor National Park were thinking about how they could still speak to the volunteers, getting them out doing things useful, but knowing that the volunteers couldn't come out and do duties, but they were still probably wandering around their local environment, often many of them living within the park still. And so they thought about using the app iNaturalist, which they already were using for some projects, but they thought about asking the volunteers to use it to start recording the things that they saw when they were out and about. So Look Wild is the name of the project, and as a 15 national parks we came together to think about how we could do something on a more nationwide basis, and essentially it's just to provide more opportunities for more people to engage with and learn about and record the wildlife across all of the national parks, and crucially beyond that as well. So the project uses the iNaturalist platform to engage people who are complete novices, but also people who've got a lot of expertise in recording the wildlife they see around them. And then these records are verified through various different methods. Since we launched the project, the iNaturalist app is working with the other app, which is the other main app in this kind of field of recording, which is called iRecord, and they're now working together. And it basically means that essentially all the contributions will, depending on their level of verification, end up making contributions to the UK official environment records data set. Just play a really brief video about how this works.
How do us national park rangers keep an eye on our wildlife? With your help and a touch of technology, we're launching the biggest citizen science project National Parks UK have ever run. I'm here to introduce you to Look Wild, a fun and free app that's going to teach you loads about nature and help our conservation efforts too. There are only 4 things you need to do to get involved. Get the app, get outside, take some shots. Photos of any plants, animals or insects will do, and you can even record sound. Finally, upload your discovery and your location, and the app will tell you what you saw. That's it. You're officially part of the team and have helped in the huge effort to record, protect and enhance our natural environment. You can use Look Wild anywhere outside national parks too. So why not start your learning today and get out in your own back garden?
Okay, so on this screen, you're just seeing once you are, if you are going to do this and you do download the app, once you're logged in, you can find our particular project, and then you'll be able to start to look at the data that's both within our park, but also any of the 15 national parks across the UK. This is actually quite an old screenshot of it, but you can see at the time within those areas the number of observations that there were. It's a significant number of contributions that have already been made. once you've uploaded something, the app will ask you to try and provide some information about it. I'm just going to play a 1-minute video on how to do this in a minute, but you can see the kind of information that you provide. But there is no expertise needed. So for those of you who know or think you know what it is, you can provide that. But equally, if you haven't got a clue and you want to just upload the photograph, that's also absolutely fine, because there are people who will go along and then take a look at these records and sort of peer review them until they achieve an acceptable level of agreement as to what this may be. And I will just show you this very short video on how to do that.
This brief tutorial is for learning how to join the LookWild project in iNaturalist, as well as making your first biological record. I will assume that you have already successfully logged in using either a Twitter, Facebook, or an email address. Assuming you are using Android, such as our work phones, you have to tap on the menu bar in the top left-hand corner and open the Projects tab. Under Joined, it will likely say No Projects Found. In the search bar, upper right, search for LookWild and it should pop up. You're looking for the one that says National Parks UK. Once you've opened this page, tap on the little Join button just above Observations. Refresh the page and you're ready for your first record. So now we've joined the project, we can make our first observation. By pressing on the green plus sign, we can make a record. For this example, I'll be using a pre-saved image, but it is ideal to use the Take Photo option when out in the field. This way, your phone's GPS will automatically fill in your location and time of day fields for you. Now that my photo has been submitted, I need only to do a couple more things. First, I have to suggest what species I've found. I know this is a bog asphodel, so when I tap on the What Did You See input, the iNaturalist software will also try and work out what it is for me. Now, it also believes it to be bog asphodel, so I can select this as my species. If, and this does sometimes happen, its suggestions are way off the mark, you may manually type in the species name in this bar. Going back to the main page, you can often ignore the notes section on your record. But if you notice something that may not come across well in the photographic evidence, for example, smell or movement, you can write them in here. Date and time should be automatically filled in for you if you took a live photograph, but if not, make sure this is correct, as this is vital for all records. Location again should automatically have been done, but if not, you can use this Google Maps system to pinpoint yourself. The final thing to check is that your location visibility is not set to private, as this will unfortunately make your data useless to any organizations. A final note, the Add to Project button at the bottom is hugely confusing. So I will say one thing on this, ignore it completely. All of your records are automatically added to the LookWild project if you followed all of the previous steps. And manually trying to add it via this button will only serve to infuriate you. The record is now complete. Just tap on the green tick mark and it will be uploaded for verification.
Okay, so that was just a really brief video that was done by a member of the LookWild team, but in the Cairngorms, as you might have noticed from the when they were locating themselves on the map. And but as all the national parks across the UK are doing it, they shared this handy guide, and I thought, well, I might as well use that one rather than try and create my own. But just to recap on what you would need to do to help us with LookWild, it's as simple as downloading the app. It's as simple as anywhere where you're outside, within the park or not, taking the photos and uploading them. Over the next few months, Kim and I will be working on developing this project a little bit more. We will be holding some training sessions where people could pop in and learn how to use the app with us. We'd hope to ask for some volunteers who would then act as trainers themselves when they're out and about with their fellow volunteers, because the idea is that longer term we can start to apply the use of this with not only within your volunteering duties. You know, you might be going out and doing walling or path repair and things like that, and when you're out and about, just record things that are interesting. But more specifically, we have plans with the learning and engagement team, and we'll be speaking to the ranger team as well, and people like the seasonal rangers and all those kind of roles where they're doing engagement about how we can use the app more specifically. And equally, longer term, it has applications for perhaps working with the wildlife team if they're wanting to look at particular species and ask volunteers to keep their eye out for particular groups that might be around and about in our national parks. So we'll be developing further applications for its use over the winter, so that from springtime we'll start to be more specific about its use. But we thought this next few months might be a good time for people just to get to grips with it. So let us know how you get on. We'd be really interested to hear how you find it. I think feedback that I've had from quite a few people is the first couple of times it's a bit people might just not be used to it, but then once you've done it a couple of times, it's really easy. So let us know how you get on and feed it back to us, and we'd love to generate as much data about what you're seeing as possible. And also we will, there's no need to log hours for when you do this, but we will, as a collective of 15 national parks, will look at the numbers of observations that we have, and we'll be able to make a determination of the amount of volunteer time that's also contributed to generating this important data for us. So it also is valuable to us in that way as well, in terms of the time you spend doing it. So that's me on LookWild. So thank you very much for that. I'm just going to stop sharing if I can find my Zoom screen. Okay, hopefully you're seeing me again now. Right, next on the agenda, I wanted to just introduce Ali Webb, who's hopefully going to just give us the briefest of, well, as long as you want really, Ali, but hopefully going to give us a talk on the Dales Volunteer Social Committee, which is something that Kim and I have been working with a few of you on over the last few months to see the ways the park can support people to some social activities and things that amongst themselves or in smaller groups. And Ali was the first of the team to lead everybody in a natural activity. So we'll hear from you now, Ali, if that's okay.
If I can, yeah, I'm unmuted. Yes, I went along to these virtual meetings that you held earlier this year. And obviously pre-COVID, we used to do social walks. We, as after the West team, we would do a social walk. So what I really did this year, after having a couple of after attending a couple of your meetings, we arranged a social walk for the West team, which took place in September. Prior to that, I sent an email out to find out who was interested, and there was a good response. And then a date, and I had a couple of volunteers who were interested in taking the walk as well, leading the walk, which was great. And then the date we picked, which I think was the first week in September, everybody else seemed to be busy. So eventually there was only 5 of us that turned up, but it doesn't matter. We had a social meeting, a social gathering, a social walk in Dale, and I believe everybody who turned up was enjoyed it. And hopefully we will do another one next year. It's on our discussion for later on after this meeting for the West Dales team. That's what I really want to say.
Thanks very much, Ali. So if there's any way that the park can support any other groups or smaller pockets of you wanting to do this kind of thing, and there's things that Kim and I can do to assist that in any way, do let us know, because it's something that we have heard through feedback that it's something that people typically enjoy. So we're just making the point that we're around to help and try and support it if needed. Although I know sometimes often it does happen in a sort of ad hoc basis anyway, but it's just to flag that it's something that we'd be happy to discuss. The final section of our meeting, and we're actually nicely on time, is to hearing from some of our supervisors. So in a moment or two, if hopefully she's on the call. Have we got Kathy with us, Kim? Or Kathy, can you tell me if you're here, Kathy Bergs? Just going to squiz through the recipients. I'm not hearing Kathy. Speak up if you are here, Kathy. Okay, what I'll do is I'll play. We've also got a video from Rebecca Swift, who's our education officer. Catherine Beardmore mentioned the work.
Sorry, Sally, I'm here. I've just come on.
Oh, fab. Okay, right. Well, excellent. Right. Well, we'll start with you, and then we'll move on to Rebecca. So we'll do it that way round. So the floor is yours, Kathy.
Well, I'm just going to talk a bit about the meet and greet duty that went on this year. And I've got some people to thank for that, because for those of you who don't know, it was part of the reaction to COVID. When we reopened, we asked for meet and greet volunteers to help the staff sort of welcome the public back to the centres. And this was to sort of reassure the visitors about the safety of the centres and to provide a real welcome to them. And it's just been wonderful. The meet and greet volunteers that we've had have just been absolutely fantastic and a really, really positive force for the authority. We're so thrilled with what they've done. Initially, we had 53 initial volunteers and 36 did over 1 hour of duty. And this was at Malham, Grassington and Aysgarth. Mohammed and Simon were the coordinators, and they've just done a great job with getting people enthusiastic about it and keeping people coming in. Obviously, numbers did drop off as people got back to their own lives, but the initial start was just phenomenal, really. We've had responses from TripAdvisor, from people actually taking the trouble to write in and say what a great welcome they've had at the centres, which is just wonderful. The staff also wanted to thank everybody that did this duty, because it's really helped them. It's eased a lot of the pressure off with having that sort of buffer almost. I mean, we've been responsible for counting people in and out of the centres for our risk assessment, so we didn't get overcrowded. But just to have someone there to sort of explain the situation and what was going on, and also to encourage people into the centres, which obviously we need to sell things to keep going. So that's been a real positive as well. So the staff of the centres wanted to say thank you very much for all your help. And Simon and Mohammed also wanted to pass on their thanks to say thank you for everyone that was able to help us with this. Mohammed and Simon also put in lots of hours on this, and we got the hours back of the meet and greet volunteers, and Keith, who worked at Aysgarth, did 20 duties, which is phenomenal. I mean, he's been fantastic, and he's part of the team at Aysgarth now. It's just been wonderful. And Ali, Bob, Michelle, Tamsin, Sally and Richard have also, I mean, I'm not naming everybody because everyone that's done it has been wonderful, but they've also put in a phenomenal amount of duties. So just thank you from the centre staff and for the volunteers, and we'll keep you posted about what we're going to do next year. But it's just been great, so thank you very much. That's it.
Fabulous, thank you, Kathy. Appreciate that. Sorry, I didn't see you. There's so many people on this meeting. There's definitely more than last year, which is great. So yeah, sorry I couldn't find you in amongst all those faces. Right, I will move on to Rebecca Swift's video in just a moment, but I did have Debbie Allen from the Dales Countryside Museum said she didn't want to appear on screen, but she did send me an email that she asked me to read out, or an appeal rather, and it's about the Young Archaeologist group that they have at DCM. I don't know if you are all aware of it, but they're putting a programme. It's a long-running initiative that they've had, but they're developing the programme for next year at the moment. They normally meet around 10 times a year. It's normally Saturdays and normally at the museum, although they do some trips and activities that are on site. But they'd like they're looking for a few more helpers really to help keep this going. So they're looking for volunteers who'd be interested in working with young people, and an interest in archaeology would obviously be an advantage as well. These volunteers would need a DBS, but that's something that Kim is very able to help get arranged for you. So if it's something that you're interested in doing, or you want to find out more, you could speak to Debbie or Fiona at the museum, or come via Kim and myself, and we'll put you in touch. So just something that she asked me to highlight here. Okay, the final person we're going to hear from today is our Education Officer, Rebecca, who sent me the following video. So again, if you can just bear with me while I grapple with the technology. I'll find it in one moment. Kim, it's not popping up in my normal window, so will you give me a shout out? Well, I'll press play a different way, but will you give me a shout out if it doesn't appear correctly on your screen?
Yes.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Swift, and I'm the Education Officer for the Yorkshire Dales National Park. My role is to lead outdoor learning activities with primary and secondary schools across the National Park, and schools from our local cities, Leeds, Bradford and so on, to sites in the Yorkshire Dales. So they're very practical sessions that we run. They're usually half-day sessions, or sometimes 10 till 2-day sessions, and they're usually based around geography or science topics. So I'm just going to share with you a little bit about some of the sessions that we've been running this year since April, when we started up after COVID. So first slide just gives you an example of one of our farm visits. So this was at Gilgarth Farm, and you can see very happy volunteers there. And we had a lovely group of very young children, five-year-olds, at the farm, doing a whole variety of activities there. Another activity sessions that we do, we've done quite a lot on rivers. So this is in Dent. This is their Key Stage 2 class. We had a couple of volunteers there helping out with our day of kind of measuring river features, and measuring stones and all sorts of things that we did there. We also do a lot on landscapes and rocks, so linked to geology. We've got a rock detective session taking place on the left-hand side of the screen, and then a group heading to Aysgarth Falls to have a look at the geology there. Woodland investigations for young children and for slightly older ones at Key Stage 2, very popular. We run them pretty much all year round, and very important to have volunteers for these sessions, because often we have big groups and we run a variety of activities, and the children kind of rotate around the activities that we do. And this is an outdoor survival session that we ran with some Year 6 groups last year. So this is in Grasswoods near Grassington, which is one of our popular sites. So it was shelter building and building tools and some team challenge activities. So the popular sites that we use tend to be Malham, Aysgarth Falls, Grasswoods, as I said, and Cleetop Wood, which is near Settle. But sometimes we run sessions on school sites and use their outdoor space. So the sessions we run are very practical, interactive, and hopefully fun. And we've delivered sessions to nearly 1,500 children and young people since April, which we're really delighted about. So can I say, firstly, a huge thank you to our current education team, because without them, those volunteers, and we wouldn't have been able to run these sessions or to reach anywhere near as many young people as we have done. But we are always looking for new members to join our volunteering team and to support these sessions. So if you're interested, have a chat with me over Zoom. We can arrange a Zoom meeting so you can find out a bit more about the role and I can get to know you. And then we can organise the things that we kind of do need for our education volunteers. So you would require a DBS certificate, and we organise that. You would need to complete an outdoor first aid course at sort of sometime in the first few months of you becoming a volunteer. And we also run some in-house training on things like safeguarding, risk assessments and kind of management of groups. So just to share, this was a group that we had out just on earlier this week. So some new volunteers here with some of our education and engagement team heading up Malham Cove. And Roger Gaynor, you can see there, kindly agreed to lead the walk and then do the sort of Malham Landscape Trail with us. So we had a really enjoyable day. That's us up at Gordale Scar. So yeah, really enjoyable day. So it's if you are interested, then please get in touch. We currently have about 20 education volunteers, but we're always looking for more, because our number of schools that are interested are constantly growing. So good to meet you all, and please get in touch if you'd like to join our team. Bye for now.
Okay. Right, well, that was the last item on the agenda. So it's more or less